Hello and welcome to day 4, stage 4 of the Tour of Poland. Starting today in Zawiercie and ending in Zabrze, 238 kilometers. It's the longest stage of the Tour of Poland. Normally, the longest stage of this race always starts in Zawiercie, so we've continued the tradition with Peter Sagan leading in the yellow jersey. Maciej Paterski, he's king of the mountains. Sagan also leads the sprints competition with Adrian Kurek winning the Lotto classification. Rafał Majka's the best placed Polish rider in the overall, he's third, and Dylan Teuns won yet again in professional cycling for the 4th time in 8 days. So today's stage looks like this. It's a long old day, temperatures up as high as 40 degrees Celsius. 150 riders remain. No Sam Bewley anymore, no Ben Hermans either. He climbed off after a crash yesterday. Fractures, unfortunately, to report. The 150 remaining take on this with 3 finishing laps outside the stadium of Górnik Zabrze. 5 riders remained in the break. We had 6 away in the first 10 kilometers today. It was a fast start under 30-degree temperatures. They've since risen to 36, 37. We've even had reports of 40 degrees. Rémi Cavagna, for the 2nd time in this Tour of Poland in the breakaway, the rider from France and Quick-Step Floors. He was joined by Bert-Jan Lindemann, who has since sat up and returned to the peloton. But the 4 other riders who were already there are still there as well. Tom Squinge, again from Cannondale Drapac, after he attacked late on yesterday. Nick Dougal is the South African rider there from Dimension Data. Jan Tratnik, the former Slovenia national champion on the road, riding for the Polish team CCC Sprandi Polkowice in the orange jersey. And Pavel Bernas, currently last in the general classification. He's riding for the Polish national team. Part of 5 riders being chased down by this peloton. 2 minutes and 8 seconds is the gap. Beautiful late evening sunshine. And finally, Tony Gibb, it's starting to cool down a little.
Finally, yeah, good afternoon, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody at home. Thanks for joining us. We had a conversation before we came on air with Gary Beckett from Cannondale Drapac, who's in the feed zone. 41 degrees his car was showing, the temperature on his car. Now, we all know that car temperatures can be a little over the top, but even if it was 36, 38 degrees, that's ridiculously hot. All of the riders asking for what are now referred to as the ice sock to put down their backs to cool them down a little bit, which the Swanniers aren't very happy about, because it's not the easiest thing to put together and keep cool and then hand up in the feed zone, but they were all asking for them. It's ridiculously hot, as you say, and these riders been out there now for the best part of 190 kilometres. Since 10k to go, since 10k gone, 40 kilometres left to go. We should just see the sprint in a minute for the breakaway riders. I don't think they'll contest it, but there's a little bit of cash on offer there, so they may well do. The bunch, as you can see, they're making progress, aren't they? They're trying to bring this gap down. It did come down at one point to just over 1:30, and then almost immediately went back out to 2:45. I think they realised they were bringing it back far too quickly.
Well, at the moment, it's the sprinters teams who are controlling things. You can see Orica Scott at the front. They want a victory for the first time this week for Caleb Ewan. Behind them, UAE Team Emirates. They've already had a sprint victory with Sacha Modolo. And, of course, Bora Hansgrohe, who ride because they want Peter Sagan to pick up what would be a 2nd win of the week, but also because he's in the yellow jersey there, the leader's jersey. And if he can take another win today, pick up 10 more bonus seconds, does he suddenly become a danger to the overall for everybody?
I'm not sure. I mean, Sagan himself said yesterday that he was going to ride for Rafał Majka for the overall.
And he sits 3rd overall as well at the minute. Yeah,
he does. And also, having looked at the profile of the next 3 stages, there's hardly any flat at all. And I think Friday's stage is just, I think there's 8 climbs all over 900 metres in 130k of racing. Now that's a lot of climbing in any distance of race, but in that shorter race, that's a very, very hilly race indeed. So I'm not really sure Sagan will be up there on that many climbs. Having said that, we did say yesterday when we saw him just how lean he was looking. You can never call Peter Sagan fat by any stretch of the imagination, but he's also always one of the slightly chunkier riders in the peloton. Looking at him yesterday, he really has slimmed down a lot.
Okay, and he finished very, very well up there yesterday in 2nd place. Dylan Teuns won the stage. And just to check in with the overall, just to tell you how it stands, Sagan leads by 6 seconds from Dylan Teuns at the moment. Sagan's teammate Rafał Majka at 12 seconds in 3rd. Wilco Kelderman, who had a very good day yesterday, the Netherlander riding for Team Sunweb, he's at 16 seconds in fourth. Tom Jelte-Slagter back in business after a couple of years of anonymity, really, since he was so good at Paris-Nice. He's 21 seconds back in fifth place. There's Odd Christian Eiking, the Norwegian rider from Française des Jeux. He's at 23 seconds. Pozzovivo at 24 in seventh. Wout Poels from Sky, look out for him, 25 seconds in eighth. There's the British rider Adam Yates, 25 seconds in ninth. And Nathan Haas, a collection of riders on 30 seconds. Vincenzo Nibali, Gorka Zaguirre also in the top 15. It is very nicely poised going into the last three stages after today.
Yeah, and Adam Yates down, as you say, 25 seconds down. I think he lost all of those 25 seconds on that final climb yesterday, as we just see the riders getting ready for this sprint as they come around this right-hand turn.
Yeah, this is a special sprint prize that's been put on. There's a monetary prize here for everybody on offer.
Tatnik is going down the right-hand side of the road, switches across in the orange. The CCC Sprandi Polskowiecki.
It's Tratnik out there who is going to try and take it. Tratnik in the orange does take the money, does take the prize, and he'll be on the podium later on today. Remy Cavagna here at the back in the blue, former French under-23 time trial champion. And Tom Screenge, nice to see him back racing in the green. There's Nick Dougal as well in the black and white. You can see it's still 33 degrees here, and it's gone 7 o'clock in the evening.
Yep, and these five riders still pressing on, four riders now pressing on at the front of the bunch. As you say, was very hot. It's still very hot, isn't it? Despite the fact that it's early evening. Not something that's particularly popular with the staff of this race is how late these races are finishing, because they then have a transfer afterwards to the hotel. You know, massages, dinner, all the rest of it. So although the races are starting later, there is work to be done tonight.
Well, on that note, a little reminder to set your video recorders, set your boxes. I'm not sure if anybody uses video recorders anymore, but wherever you're watching us, remember we're on earlier tomorrow, 2:30 in United Kingdom. In the meantime, there's still 37k still to go. Join us for the finale after this. The Silesia region of Poland. Started today in Zawiercie, finishing up in Zabrze. Stage 4 of the Tour of Poland, 36 kilometers still to go. It looks as though we're heading for a sprint at the moment. 2 minutes and 13 seconds is the gap between 5 left in the breakaway and the yellow jersey of Peter Sagan, the rest of the peloton.
Well, although we did say that the next couple of stages are very hilly, today's stage started off quite hilly, but after 60k all of the major climbs were done. It's been an up and down day since then, which very often can be the hardest sorts of days, because you look at the profile and you think to yourself there's no classified climbs, but if you're just going up and down all day long, that really does sap your strength. That said, the last 3 kilometers of this race do not rise or fall 1 kilometer. It is like looking at an ice rink on the profile. So it's going to be a very fast finish indeed.
Hopefully not as slippy. We've got 3 final laps of 6 kilometers, so they're going to have a good look at the finale again today. See how they get to it. Been a long day today. Had 2 feed zones in this 240-kilometre race. The gels, spas, everything still needed, and certainly plenty of drinks as well today.
And that was one of the issues we saw yesterday, didn't we, with the breakaway riders. Didn't have the team car to be able to come up and give them any drinks.
Yep, long day today. Longest stage, and it's funny, in a week packed full of short stages, what does a long day like this do to the body? Is it a bit of a shock to the system? We're talking almost classic distance, aren't we? 240 kilometres.
Yeah, I mean, 240 kilometres does a lot to the body anyhow, you know, whether it's...
and in 40-degree heat.
Yeah, whether it's on its own or not. But you'll find that the bunch do, you know, they're all trying to achieve the same thing, and it's not going to do anyone any favours if the racing's on from kilometre 0 and they're chasing breaks down all day. So that's why you see a breakaway like this will go reasonably quickly once a break goes that's got the right makeup of riders. So nobody that's up there overall on GC, nobody that's too high in any of the other competitions. Once that goes, the time gap will go out to that fairly quickly, because the bunch will pretty much not stop, but they'll all stop for a natural break. They'll all go back to the feed cars. If they've had any gilets on, which they haven't, obviously they'll dump those at the feed cars, pick up bidons, pick up food, go back up to the bunch. So they could spend 20 minutes, you know, cruising along, getting everything sorted out before they stick a couple of riders on the front. And it'd probably be Bora that say, right, we're going to put 2 on the front. UAE would say, okay, we'll put 1 on the front because we want this to come down to a gallop. You know, BMC might put 1 up there because they got second on GC. And then they won't start bringing the break back, but they'll just start pushing through and ticking over to limit the breaks gap. And, you know, anything up to 5 or 6 minutes on a day like today, they can bring back very easily in the last 40k. As you can see, 1 minute 52, let's call that 2 minutes. That'll come back very quickly. So they'll all, you know, have the same ultimate game plan of staying hydrated, making sure they eat, and not absolutely frying themselves on a day like today.
Well, is it going to be another day for Peter Sagan? Bonus seconds maybe today. 10 would increase his lead. I can't imagine Dylan Turn's been up there in the final sprint. He'd then lead theoretically by 16 seconds.
Yeah, it's just worth noting that if you're looking for that white Sprints jersey, it's not on Peter Sagan's shoulders, it's on the shoulders of Danny Van Poppel. He's got it by default, as Sagan can only wear 1 jersey at a time. But he's not actually leading the competition. Sagan's actually 13, 15 points ahead of Danny Van Poppel in that competition, so he's got a healthy lead at the moment.
Well, one team who will be hoping that their sprinter Christian Sbaragli can do something, but who haven't had a work all day, is Dimension Data. This is Nick Dougal, the South African good, solid young rider who's riding for them out in the breakaway today. He's just put some ice underneath his jersey, underneath a little bit behind the neck. 32 kilometres still to go, and well, all the talk today, it's the 1st of August, it's been transfer window opening time.
Yeah, he woke up this morning and just flicked through the phone quickly, and it was like, right, okay, it's been busy, hasn't it? And this is obvious because half of these deals were done weeks ago, weren't they? But they just can't announce them up until today. So, yeah, and Bora Hansgrohe have been exceptionally busy already, taking Peter Kenyuk and Daniel Oss from Team Sky and BMC, respectively. We were talking about this earlier. It's probably time for Kenyuk to look for a new challenge, and that's exactly what he said in his press release. The last 2 times he's had contract negotiations, the rumblings have been he's going to go, and he stays there. But I think it's time. He's a great rider, but we were talking about this yesterday, weren't we, with riders that settle at Sky and stay there and riders that leave, and we've seen Ben Swift go to UAE this year. I think Kenyuk's got to that stage in his career where he wants his own opportunity, and yes, he's won a stage at the Dauphiné, but he needs to make that big step now, and he's probably looking at a rider like Steve Cummings and thinking, I want a couple of Tour de France stage wins.
Well, in the press release that came out first thing this morning from Bora Hansgrohe, the German team announcing Daniel Oss and Pete Kenyuk as their new signings, there was a line right at the bottom that said, Pete will be our leader for some of the one-week stage races next year. So he's already been given that confidence publicly. And of course, Danielos, we saw him on the attack the other day, being chased down by Bora Hansgrohe, actually. He's already good friends with quite a few riders at that team. He used to ride for Peter Sagan at Liquigas back in the day. He's ridden with Marcus Burkhardt at BMC. And of course, Cesare Benedetti, he lives and trains very close to him.
It's remarkable, Danielos, for a rider who was so lauded when he first came onto the scene and has so much talent. It's remarkable how few races he's actually won in the last couple of years, and you know, he really does need to step up and start delivering some big results. I think it was 5th in Gent-Wevelgem this year, I think he was, but he's a rider that should be on the podium, if not winning a couple of classics.
Well, other names and other teams that have been confirmed today. Ramon Sinkeldam, the current Dutch national champion, will finally get the national champion's jersey he feels he'll deserve, because he's leaving Team Sunweb. Of course, famously just stuck a little flag on the front of his jersey for the Tour de France, much to the ire of the Dutch fans this summer. He's joining Française des Jeux. Going with him is Georg Preidler, the Austrian rider, the first Austrian rider since Bernie Eisel to ride for Française des Jeux. Also leaving his team at the moment, Eduardo Sepulveda, the Argentine rider, stepping up to the World Tour, going to Movistar, and Eddie Dunbar, the young Irish star, signing his first proper professional contract for Aqua Blue. The longer stage of this year's edition of the Tour of Poland. Zawiercie to Zabrze, 238 kilometres, the only day over 200 Ks. The breakaway's been out more or less all day so far. It went after about 10 kilometres of very hard-fought rising at the start. It was 6 men strong, had a maximum gap of about 6 minutes and 50. Bert-Jan Lindemann was with them, the Netherlander. He's since sat up, gone back to the bunch after securing the blue jersey for tomorrow. The most combative riders' jersey, as it's termed here. It's basically the intermediate sprints jersey, if you will. Still out there, Remy Cavagna, Tom Squinge, Nick Dougal, Jan Tratnik and Paweł Bernas, who's the only Polish representative. He's at the back there wearing the red and white of the Polish national team. Dougal's the man at the front here. He's wearing the black and white of Dimension Data, the South African team. We've seen Remy Cavagna in there in the blue. Tom Squinge in the green. Jan Tratnik in the orange. Lots of fans on the side of the road, and well, this is the only rise on the way in, I think. It's quite flat after this, isn't it?
As we were saying, you know, these up and down, when they're not on the profile, they do take it out of you, just up and down all day long. But yeah, once we get onto the finish circuit, it's relatively flat. There's a couple of rises, nothing that even really shows on the profile. And then, as we said, the last 3 kilometres absolutely pan flat, 250 metres altitude, and that's exactly where it stays right until the finish. So you see here just a motorway bridge or something. And the riders, it's still being chased down, the group at the front 130, but as you can see, it's not flat out at the moment. The riders they're just in that phase where they're just getting ready for that last sort of 20-kilometre rush.
Well, before this started, a few of the riders in the bunch had a minute's silence earlier on today during the race, because it's the commemoration, the anniversary of the Warsaw Uprising in the Second World War. Today, a very, very important day in Polish history. Polish riders, fans, everybody commemorated that with a minute's silence earlier on during the race. Even race radio fell silent for a minute.
Just going back to what you were saying about contracts and people moving around, Bob Jungels, I think it was announced yesterday, and we might have even mentioned it yesterday, Bob Jungels has signed a 3-year extension with Quick-Step. That's a really interesting one, because there were rumours a couple of weeks ago during the tour that they were struggling to get the money together and they're struggling to keep their big name riders. It's no surprise that Bob Jungels has renewed with them, or that he's not one of their highest paid riders, but that he's renewed for 3 years. That's quite an interesting development, because that says that the team have found some money from somewhere.
Don Patrick Lefevre, the boss. He's assured Belgian press this morning that the sponsors' papers and the team papers are where they need to be, he said. And I think in saying that, he assumed with the lawyers being sorted before he can officially announce anything.
To be fair, no one ever says they're not, though, are they? You never say, do you know what, we're really struggling for money, because all of a sudden your riders just scatter.
But he's always delivered, hasn't he, Patrick Lefevre? He's always delivered new sponsors. He's very famous for being a tough negotiator. He has this reputation of Don Patrick in the Belgian press.
We were talking earlier, weren't we, about how we seem to be in this holding phase with all the transfers, where certain riders are rumoured to be going to certain other teams, and then we're just waiting for that move to happen so that another move can happen to fill that place, and that frees up a place here, and it's the jigsaw puzzle that keeps moving.
Well, there's no big deadline day like you'll get in the soccer world. There'll be nobody in yellow ties landing in a helicopter waiting to announce the big move.
No Harry Redknapp in his Range Rover outside the training ground. It would be great, that, wouldn't it, if you could get Dave Brailsford on transfer deadline day sending a fax.
It always amazes me when they talk about faxes. Who uses faxes? Now it's like me with a video recorder.
You were just going to put a video recorder on, so maybe we're having a retro day.
Winner Anacona having a retro moment of his own now. He's going back to the car. At the back here, the Algerian champion Youssef Reguigui. Just in front of him, wearing 31, on the left-hand side of him now, is Adam Yates. Adam Yates, who has Jack Hay with him for company towards the back should anything happen.
Rider that attacked at last knock-ins yesterday and came unstuck by that final climb. I think he would have got caught anyway, but I think everybody came unstuck on that final climb yesterday. It shocked all of us just how steep it was running up to the finish at the training camp for the Polish Winter Olympic team.
Today's stage finishes just outside of a big football stadium, actually. Talking of different sports and transfer deadlines and all that sort of stuff. Any of you follow Polish football will know the name Górnik Zabrze, 14 times national champions. That's exactly where the stage finishes today, right outside the stadium.
Gap's tumbling now, isn't it? 1:14 to these lead riders.
Another bead on there. Lot of food and drink being taken on before the bar closes at 20 kilometres to go, and it will have been that sort of day. And let's not forget that these guys aren't just fueling for now. If you go back to Chris Froome's interview in the Sunday Times last week, it's for the next few days as well. If you don't eat and drink correctly today, you are going to suffer in the next few days. Definitely.
And if you do have a problem today, if you haven't drunk enough today, you can't recover that overnight. You can't just, hyperhydrate yourself overnight and then turn up tomorrow and be okay. That will stay in your legs, that will stay in your body for a couple of days. So, this race still got 3 days left to go, and, the temperature's going to probably be the same for the rest of the week. We're in the middle of summer in Europe here, so, it's not going to be an easy one for these riders, that's for sure.
Remy Cavagna, former national time trial champion at under 23 level. He's one of 3 neo-pros this year at Quick Step. And of course, just like Julien Alaphilippe and Petr Vakoc, came through the ranks of the feeder team that used to exist for Quick Step. It was Klein Constantia. That finished last year. Rather like BMC have finished their own development team this year, and one of their riders has signed for a World Tour team. Pascal Acorn, I think it is.
Yeah, that was an announcement this morning, wasn't it, that the BMC development team is no longer going to continue, and the reason being that they said, well, we develop all these riders and then all the other World Tour teams nick them. Well, the problem is you could have a 20-rider development team and you can only take 3 or 4 of them on. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. You've got to have the development teams, but in this day and age where sponsors are so hard to come by, running another team that's costing you 700,000–800,000 euros, maybe more, that's a big chunk of your salary budget.
It's funny, isn't it? It all depends on how the cash flow is going, because the team who have the rider in second position there have just started a development team, Mitchelson Scott.
Yeah.
Which is part of the Orica Scott team, and that is their feeder team. And in fact, last week they had their first ever win, so congratulations to that team.
Well, they come and go, don't they? You see various different development teams. Some of them take exactly the same form as the World Tour team. They're on the same bikes, they're in the same jersey, they share the same service de course, probably share the same staff. Especially in France, that happened quite some time ago. The French now tend to shy away from continental level teams because the club scene is so good in France. The elite club scene is so good. They don't need the continental level teams, and the federation try and deter that as much as possible. But they come and go. Various different teams have their development squads. It's something that we haven't seen Team Sky do, and to be honest, I don't think they will. Knowing Dave Brailsford and his mindset, he always looks at the peak, the pinnacle, and that's where we're focusing on. We're not focusing on below that. But you know, BMC stopping that, Orica starting it. It's interesting to see if any of the other teams take up that option for next year.
Just over a minute is the gap now, with 24 kilometres still to go. No rush for the peloton chasing behind us. More under control than they could wish for. Peter Sagan sits well poised in about 8th position in his yellow leader's jersey. Still UAE Team Emirates, Orica Scott and Bora Hansgrohe controlling the chase. A very warm welcome back. 1 minute and 24. They've just let the gap grow that little bit more again. Still 22.5 kilometres out from the finish line. And we're around, what is it now, 4 kilometres from our first passage of the finish.
Yeah, so 24 seconds added onto that gap very quickly while we were on the commercial break, wasn't it? So the bunch obviously thought this is coming back a little bit too quick for us, and let that one go out again.
Well, this is Zabrze, as you can see, big mining place historically.
Very picturesque.
Well, they talk about industrial tourism in this part of the world and showing off the mining heritage here in Zabrze. "22 kilometres remaining." Heading into the old mining town of Zabrze in southern Poland, the Silesia region. Again, right in the middle of huge swathes of forests and beautiful nature. It really is a race that does show off the country well. And we've had perfect weather for it this year, much in contrast to the stormy conditions we saw 12 months ago. A race that was weather affected in the end and was won overall by Tim Wellens. And we were talking about the industrial tourism. Wow. Should have been able to have a look around that. It's almost been like in classics country, isn't it? Northeastern France.
One thing, just when you look at these pictures here, you can see how late in the day it's getting. You know, the cars and bikes, they always have their lights on anyway. It's a requirement of being in the convoy. But when the riders go into the trees and the sun's very low now, you can just see how dusky it's getting. It can't tell you how late it is. Well, obviously, you can tell you how late it is in the day, but can't tell you how unpopular that is with the team staff, especially.
Well, it all depends as well on what time Polish television wants to show it, can show it to, and local police, all sorts of factors are brought into it. And in the middle of summer, this is the one time that you can get away with it in terms of having the light as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So these riders just coming up to 21 kilometres to go. 1 minute 18 the gap, so it's come back down again by another 6 seconds.
3 laps of 6 kilometres coming up once they come across the finish line for the first time. This is Rémi Cavagna again. Had a really good final amateur season last year. He was one of the standout under-23 riders of the season. He took the final stage of the Volta ao Alentejo in Portugal. Very good race for under-23 riders. He took a stage of the Circuit des Ardennes International as well. Before, he showed his TT skills and he won the Tour of Berlin. Very, very good rider, Rémi Cavagna. He's still only 21.
Yeah, utter quality that rider is, and certainly got big things ahead of him.
Turns 22 just after this race ends, in fact, just at the end of next week. A couple of his quick-step teammates, pardon me, towards the back here. Another of their young riders, Max Schachmann, who had a very good start to the season in Dubai. There's Davide Martinelli, who won whilst a neo-pro here last year as well. Son of Beppe Martinelli, in charge of things at Astana. Nick Dougal on the right-hand side.
Just looks like the rider on the back there, 211 Bernard from the Polish national squad, decided he's not contributing to this break anymore. And to be fair, they've been out there an awfully long time, and especially the World Tour riders, they might just let him have that. You know, he's been out there with them all day contributing. They've lost one of their number who's gone back to the bunch, and Taknik on the back there, he'll keep pushing through, but just looks like Bernard's been given a free ride for a couple of minutes.
Well, it's not the first time he's been in the break at this race as well. As you can see, a few riders just sitting up a little bit now, stretching, taking it away. They know what's coming here. They know that they're coming onto the circuit. You can see the brilliant crowds along the way. And it's not just in the finish town, is it? We've had crowds all along the route today.
Well, we said that after the sprint, didn't we? When we went to the sprint, we saw the break go through the sprint, and then we went to commercial break. And as the bunch went through, massive, massive crowds. And I said to you, are we on the circuit yet? And he was like, no, we're not there. It was like, wow, where have these guys all come from? So, yeah, it's great crowds watching this race.
Well, this event has won quite a few awards within Poland and in Central Europe itself for hosting events. It's a very, very big success story in terms of big sports events in Poland. You see all the sponsors they have, the national television in that blue inflatable shown off as well. So the regions we pass through put money into the race too, as Nick Dougal on the left-hand side just looks around. Remember, he was in the top 20 at the World Championships last year, the South African. Another good rider who's still only 24 as well in the black and white. Jan Tratnik is a former national champion of Slovenia. Giving up that jersey now to Luka Mezgec, Slovenian star who, remember, won a stage of the Giro d'Italia. What is it, 3 years ago now, the year that Nairo Quintana won. 5 hours, 17.5 minutes in the saddle. It's been a long old day in 40-degree heat. And there's the aforementioned stadium. Holds a few.
I was just about to say that wasn't what I was expecting. That's a fairly chunky, what's that, probably about 25,000-30,000 people in there?
Yeah, Górnik Zabrze, 14 times national champions of Poland. And we've got the fans from all over the world. The Colombian flag on the side of the road, as you always see in Europe.
Now we're seeing a little bit more organisation in the bunch, aren't we? We've got Trek Segafredo lining up on the right as we're looking at it. Obviously Bora Hansgrohe looking after Peter Sagan just off the front of the bunch there. Sky as well, no doubt about it, looking for a stage win for Danny Van Poppel.
And Lotto Soudal there as well, maybe trying to have a go with, we probably think, Jens de Bussert. Yellow Allies can finish quickly too. But de Bussert, the man you'd expect to try and challenge. There's Nathan Haas towards the fronts for a Dimension Data. And Poppel, as you mentioned, for Sky. Hoping to hold on to that white jersey, or at least make it his own if he can take the win today, because, as you said earlier in the broadcast, he is holding on to it for the race leader, who is Peter Sagan. Confirmed gap of 1 minute and 6 seconds as they came through the finish line there. That means 3 laps to go.
Yep, 3 laps to go, 1 minute and 6 seconds. The gap up to the front riders is 800 metres, and that one will come back very quickly when they decide to bring it back in. They've been out there a long time, those 5 riders, and in this heat especially, some very tired legs out there, and they'll be looking forward to a shorter day tomorrow, although it's a pretty punchy shorter day tomorrow.
Astana started to put a man at the front. Remember, they're riding for Riccardo Minali. Minali, of course, son of Nicola Minali, who was very good in the sprints, won Tour de France stages in the late 90s.
Interesting, they're still feeding. There's still a couple of Swanniers that have gone out there to feed the riders. Obviously, they're allowed to. The race organisers, or sorry, the race commissaires have said extreme weather protocol. It's so hot you can feed late on. But on a circuit like this, there's not many opportunities, as you can see.
Bit of an attack here to try and keep this going. Jan Tratnik at the front. Remy Cavagna, despite his time trial skills, is absolutely tired out. Nick Dougal's going to try and get across. There's a rider in the black and white. At the back here, Bernas. Remember, he rides at the 3rd Division Continental level in his day job. He's here with the Polish national team at this race.
And Skoins it is at the back there in the green for Cannondale Drapac. And again, I know we mentioned it yesterday, but it was such a nasty accident in the Tour of California. It's so good to see him back and riding his bike. It was, you know, it was one of those accidents. Sometimes you look at the crashes and you don't chuckle to yourself, but you think, oh, that stung a little bit, they'll be okay. And then some crashes you look at and you think that was nasty. So great to see him back on his bike in one piece.
Popular member of the peloton, the Latvian rider as well. Now Cavagna has found something. Cavagna in the blue goes away. Tratnik this time tries to close the gap. That is done for Bernas. Bernas, the first of this group to be dropped.
No great surprise there. We said a couple of kilometres ago that he was given a free pass to sit on the back, and you know, a rider of his calibre at his level, 200 kilometres is not something he does on a regular basis. Certainly not races 200 kilometres on a regular basis. So 240k in 40 degrees heat, you know, he's going to be on his last legs.
Remy Cavagna looks good on a bike, doesn't he? 21 years of age, first season of professional. Of course, you will learn so much, certainly being surrounded by superstars at Quick-Step.
Yeah, we were saying earlier, you know, just the riders they've got there and how hard it's going to be for Patrick Lefevere to keep all of those riders there, but he will have learned so much. And to go in as a first-year pro at a World Tour team, especially a World Tour team of the calibre of Quick-Step, his learning curve will be very steep indeed. And here we can see he's got his head down, 1 minute and 2 seconds he's got on the chasing bunch, 15k to go.
Oh, we were talking about the stadium a moment ago. Simon Rees has tweeted in at Rob Hatch TV. He said it holds 25,000 at the minute. Good guess. But they're having some work done. I imagine they're going to fill that little gap in. It's going up to 31,000. Thanks, Simon, for that. Into the final 15 kilometres of Stage 4 of the Tour de Pologne. The National Tour of Poland, a Premier League race now. Has been for a while on the World Tour since the mid-noughties. It's been a very good race, an experimental race at times. We've seen it this week with shorter stages. This is a long old beast of a stage though. 240 k's in 40 degree heat, and it hasn't deterred Remy Cavagna from going out in the attack and approaching, opening up a very nice gap.
No, he's doing well here. He's got himself a big gap, and looks like he's riding down the motorway, doesn't it? 3 lanes, very wide, closed to traffic. Got his head down, the young rider on that Specialized Venge there, one of the aero bikes that the team ride. They don't all like them because they're a very harsh ride, but he's pushing on.
When you say harsh ride, for the viewers at home, is that uncomfortable?
Yeah, the aero bikes like that, like the Trek Madone, the Factor 1, because they're focused entirely on being aerodynamic, they're very fast, but there's not a lot of give in them. They don't absorb the potholes or even just the road surface very well. They're great, but over a long period of time it can be quite wearing, and it can you can get tired just from that extra you know, shaking from the bike. And that's one of the reasons now why many riders, in fact pretty much all riders, are on 25, even some on 26, 27, 28 millimeter tubs. It just gives you that smoother ride and takes away some of that loss of nervous energy from you. So it's not always the fastest isn't always the best. However, having said that, there's so many advances now in bikes, in tyres, in you know, aerodynamics, in equipment. And the trick about it is you can't just go, well, he's using that, I'm going to use all of that. It's all about the combination of what works for you, be it aero helmet, frame, tubular tyres, the wheels, everything. It's the complete package that you use. So you can't just go, yeah, I'm using exactly the same as Mr. X.
It's working for him at the minute. 10 seconds for Remy Cavagna. He hasn't picked up a win since he turned pro. I mean, that's nothing unusual at Neo Pro when you first start your career. It's a difficult step up. But
look at Dylan Toombs.
Exactly. And at 21 years of age, he already finished second in the GC at the Tour of Belgium, which is a hard race, a good race for a time trialist. He only finished 6 seconds off the winner, who is none other than Jens Kuckelera. He finished in front of none other than Tony Martin, who finished third. So above Tony Martin on the podium, not a bad effort for your
No, not a bad
year.
effort at all in a hard race. And I think it's a race with a time trial in as well, isn't it? So, you know, for Tony Martin to be behind him in that, I don't think anyone will criticise just saying Tony Martin's time trialling skills are ebbing away slightly. But even still, you know, to finish in front of Tony Martin is a great effort in that race. Here we can see the remnants of the breakaway, and I think the white flag's being raised there. We've got Tratnik on the front. Never a rider that looks comfortable on the gear. He's always, you know, churning gear around. But those three that have been out there all day certainly now looking for the bunch in the background.
Now look at this. Over 20 seconds for Remy Cavagna. Interesting to see, first of all, what the gap is to these guys who now, I think it's pretty clear, are under threat. What is the gap to those guys behind, though? And at the minute, it looks as though it might be a minute. 36 seconds to the next group.
Probably 50 seconds, isn't it, to the group? The camera's foreshortened it, but it's certainly a big old gap.
Astana really taking over. They believe today in Riccardo Minali. He's looking for his first pro win as well. Another man in his first year as a pro. Bahrain Merida on the left-hand side. Nibali's there, but they're looking for Niccolò Bonifacio in the sprint, and it is going to be a minute. A minute and 1 second. A minute and 2, in fact. That's when the clock was stopped. A very decent gap. There's still 11 kilometres to go. It's one rider versus a lot at the minute, because there are 2 or 3 teams contributing on the front. And of course, if the gap does grow, then more teams will get interested. They want to sprint at the end of a hard day's work here. Yeah,
very much so. I mean, it's not going to affect the GC overall, but they'll still want a stage win. Peter Sagan, if he is going to work for Rafa Majka for the overall, he's going to want to nail that Sprints jersey onto his back in his own right. So Sagan will be looking for the stage win, but as we say, a minute with 11k to go. I think again that distance clicker in the top left might be having a bit of a hissy fit. It's going up and down a bit.
Well, Bora Hansgrohe started to contribute with Cesare Benedetti's second wheel to Ruben Plaza, one of the most experienced riders in the peloton, leading the charge for Orica Scott and Caleb Ewan, their Australian sprinter. Behind, you can see Klubayev, the Kazakh rider riding for Astana Pro team. Movistar is there too.
Movistar put one up there as well. So everyone, I think it was it Rory Sutherland that was up there? That would fit the. That would be the usual work for Rory Sutherland at this stage in the race. But you can see here, Cavagna pushing on the road surface isn't great.
Now then, a look at the front as Cesare Benedetti came to the front. Look behind. Oh, we're riding too hard. Hang on a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little gap opened up, and he's probably been shouted out on the radio. He says, hang on a minute, no one wants to go quite this hard. And that's an interesting one for people that, if you're watching at home and you haven't watched before, you might be thinking, well, why aren't they pushing on? There's a bigger picture here. Those two riders, they're not trying to push on to win the race for themselves. Although cycling is a race where you get one man on the podium at the end or one woman on the podium at the end, all of the riders in the race will be working to get that person there. It's the only non-team sport in the world, I think.
The only sport I can think of where people line up at the start not trying to win for themselves. Nick Dougal's been caught, as has Jan Tratnik, as has Pavel Bernas and Tom Squeech. Only Remy Cavagna is left out there, searching for his first victory as a professional. He's being chased by the man on the front in the black with the green helmet, white sleeves. That's Cesare Benedetti, an Italian rider who is a fluent Polish speaker, by the way. Behind him, riders from Astana in the turquoise jersey, several of them. One of them is Luis Leon Sanchez, third wheel at the minute. Second wheel right now is Ruben Plaza.
Look at this road surface, Rob. It almost looks like they've started resurfacing it. You know, they've put the scarifier on there to take off the top layer of the surface and then decided not to do it. It's really not a good road surface at all.
That'd be interesting from a puncture point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, it could, because, you know, you start churning it up, and no matter how much you sweep it, if you can sweep it, because there's probably 3 or 4 kilometres of it, you're going to get, you know, shavings and flints in your tyre. So yeah, it could cause some punctures. But it was interesting, Benedetti, who was on the front there, he was on the front yesterday doing a lot of work as well in the run into the finish.
There is Rémi Cavagna. He talked about the Baloise Belgium Tour, 2nd place there. Has won a stage of a race in Poland before, the course Solidarnosc et Champions Olympiques. Historic race. Rémi Cavagna with 8.5 kilometres to go. He maintains 48 seconds on the chasing peloton.
Well, this is just about the point where he attacked last lap round. So he'll now be thinking, hang on a minute, 48 seconds, 45 seconds, I'm in with a slight chance here. This could lead to something.
I suppose it depends on about how many teams start to get involved and how the chase goes, because at the minute he's riding against 2 riders, let's be honest, because there's a rider from Astana and a rider from Bora Hansgrohe. If Sky suddenly start to get involved, if another of the teams, you know, the Russian team we saw on the right hand side with the blue jerseys, Gazprom, get involved, then things are going to change. At the minute, it's not exactly strung out in one long line. It's not the biggest, fastest, fiercest pace that you'd expect. It's
not, and also it's interesting that although there's a lot of teams getting together at the front, there's no one team that's hit the front and said, right, we're going to have this, we're going to take this on. You've got the Polish national team there in the red and white on the left of your picture. You've got Astana there in the middle in the light blue or teal, or call it whatever you want, and then Gazprom over on the right. But there wasn't one team that had, right, 4 or 5 riders and let's start nailing this. We've seen this a lot in the last probably 18 months, where some teams have gone away from this committing all of the riders to the front of the bunch and setting up a big train from 20 odd kilometres out, and they're now taking it up from 4 or 5 kilometres out and hitting the front as late as possible. Marcel Kittel and Quickstep have become, you know, sort of masters at doing that. Just, it's like, where's Kittel? He's not there. 2k to go, all of a sudden he appears with 3 riders in front of him. And I think the reason for that is now the sprints are going so fast that you can't commit your team to a 20k lead-out train and then expect them to rock up at the finish and go 60, 65 kilometres an hour. Now we're seeing that the Polish national team have hit the front hard.
And the national team are riding for their sprinter Paweł Franczak, who's in the top 5 on day 1, remember. In the meantime, the man who was signed as a possible replacement for Tony Martin is trying to do a Tony Martin right off at the front, use his skills as a man who can sustain effort as if it were a time trial. He's been riding as aero as possible. He looks very good on a bike. He maintains 28 seconds, just less than 7 kilometres still to go, and he's approaching the finish line. And whatever happens, I think he's just going to take the bell. I'm not sure he's going to take much more after that, though, because they're chasing him and they have him in sight.
As we always say, the camera angle foreshortens it, but all the team cars are being pulled out. The Mavic neutral service car being pulled out there as well. So he's probably got 30 seconds, but 30 seconds for one rider with 5k, 6k to go, that's going to go away very quickly. You can see there, Bora Hansgrohe have got great representation at the front. Lotto Soudal as well.
That's funny, isn't it? Now 5 teams suddenly working at the front, and what a difference it has made. Full train from Astana on the right-hand side, getting into position. There goes the bell. 1 lap to go for Rémi Cavagna, 6 kilometres, but just a handful of seconds.
And he's been out the front for 234.5 kilometres on his own, so he's had a long, hard day out the front, but he's done his job. He's been out there on TV all the day. He's now out there on his own on TV until the last, let's say he gets caught with 3.5, 4 kilometres to go. He's really done a good job for the team, and that, it's not as important as a stage win, but for a rider in his first year to understand that and to know what his responsibilities are, that's very good riding.
And as we said earlier this week, Quickstep are in a rare position of not having a sprinter here at this race, so they have freedom to go out and attack. We saw it the other day with Davide Martinelli. We saw Niki Terpstra setting up Petr Vakoc for an attack on another of the sprint stages to Katowice. That really did set the cat among the pigeons and cause chaos in the eventual final sprint. But just 13 seconds now for Remy Cavagna, with Benedetti chasing. He's getting help from Gazprom, he's getting help from Lotto Soudal, he's had help from the Polish national team, and Bora Hansgrohe, as leaders of the race with Peter Sagan, as the favourites probably to take a win, are contributing. One team's backed off, and that's Orica Scott.
Well, they have backed off, but also Bora, they've got one rider on the front, yeah, but they've not gone up there in full force, have they? 7 riders only per team in this race. Obviously, Micah and Sagan aren't going to do any work, so that limits them to 5. One's been working all day, so that's down to 4. So they are saving their matches.
And that's it. That is it. Cavagna out of gas. That was a mighty ride, as everybody just takes stock of where we are.
And this is a bit of a problem now, because everyone's gone, oh, 5k to go. Oh no, I'm not committing. 5k, I'm not doing that. We don't want to go just yet. And we're in that situation where one team has to say, I'm taking this up, or someone's going to start chipping off in a minute.
And this may be again a product of having just 7 men in your team this year.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when you start saying, well, we've got a sprinter, we've got a lead-out rider, we've got a GC rider, all of a sudden you've only got 3 riders to use as your lead-out riders. And you can see here, there's no one team really taking it up. Gazprom 2 at the front. One rider now trying to make his way up. We've got AG2R on the left-hand side, Lotto Soudal. You can run through the list of teams that are represented at the front. Lotto Soudal, the only team there that have really got big representation at the front, and that's only 3 of them. Gazprom now, sorry, 4 Lotto Soudal, 3 Gazprom riders at the front.
Yep, Jens de Bussele sits waiting and ready at the back of that Lotto Soudal train. Alexander Porsev is the Russian rider there for Gazprom Rosvelo.
Where's Sagan? We haven't seen Sagan for, well, most of the day. Has he been hiding at the back?
Hiding in the yellow jersey. Not that easy to hide with the leader's jersey on. Now then, attack off the front from Lotto NL Jumbo. Another of the teams that don't have a big name sprinter here, riding at 45 kilometres per hour. But if you're able to get out of the peloton there and attack at this point with 3.5 kilometres to go, I'm sorry, whoever you are riding at the front, the pace isn't quick enough.
Well, you could say that, but then again, this rider's going to go up to 70k an hour, and then very quickly he's going to drop back and get caught. You know, you can sprint away out of the bunch, but you can't maintain it, and we can see that he's opened that gap up, and very quickly the slightest increase in gradient on the road, and he's going to be back in that bunch. He's now down to 54k an hour.
It's Martin Keizer who was out in the breakaway for the first couple of days, who's been attacking, by the way, in the yellow and black jersey there for Lotto NL Jumbo, the Dutch team. Astana return on the right-hand side, looking for Riccardo Minali. We're looking for Peter Sagan. He's somewhere on the left-hand side.
Yeah, left-hand side of the road. He was just being brought up by one of his teammates. There you go.
Right on the left-hand side of your picture, yellow jersey on. Just above the little 45 kilometre to go graphic now. Yeah,
they've almost put an arrow on his back for us, haven't they? So 3 kilometres to go. Is this perfect timing for Peter Sagan? And when you look at the list of riders that are in this in terms of sprinters, he's got a couple of competitors out there, but he's not got the out-and-out best in the world, has he?
Luis Leon Sanchez and company to the front for Riccardo Minali. There's Danny Van Poppel in the white jersey for Sky.
Yep, and where is Caleb Ewan from Orica Scott? He's very hard to spot because he's such a small, diminutive rider, but can't see him at the moment. Can't see any teammates either.
Sagan now up to about 15th place in the centre of the shot. This is Diego Rosa riding at the front, the Italian rider from the northwest of the country, really putting on the pace. Yep. 2.3 kilometres to go. Sky obviously confident again in Danny Van Poppel, the Dutchman.
Now it's fast, the pace is really on. You can see Nibali over on the right-hand side of the road, just having to avoid a couple of those marker signs. Sagan, you can see right there in the middle of your screen now, just being eclipsed again.
Adrian Kurek riding in the blue jersey at the minute, the Polish national champion for CCC Sprandi Polkowice. He's trying to lead out his man to have a go to the finish. We've had Jan Tratnik in the break from them. It's still Diego Rosa for Sky, inside 2 kilometres to go now. Remember, after the 1 kilometre to go banner, there's a little bit of a turn. We've seen the run-in though, nice and straight, no real problems, or at least there shouldn't be. And Poppel third wheel with 1.5 kilometres to go. Look out for him in the white jersey, the Dutchman for Sky. Remember, winning sprint so far, we've had Peter Sagan, and we've had the Italian Sacha Modolo, who at this moment is way down in about 15th position.
So we've got 190-degree left-hand bend about 50 metres after the 1K to go sign, and then it's a dead straight, dead flat run into this finish.
On the right-hand side, Trek Segafredo moving up. Remember, they have Boy van Poppel. It could be another brotherly fight. Danny van Poppel, who used to ride on the same team as his brother, now with Sky. He's in 3rd place here. Boy sits 2 wheels behind in the red and black jersey. This is Marco Coledan, pardon me, his teammate, leading them into the final kilometre now. And there's 900 metres to go. Trek Segafredo at the front. Coledan peels off. It will be Sky to lead this out. Minali is in the turquoise jersey, ready to go. You've got a few different riders trying to get in the mix. Daniel Oss is one of them. Here comes Caleb Ewan, being brought up last minute by Luca Mezgec. And Mezgec has used himself up far too early on previous occasions already in this competition. You can see Roberto Ferrari is there in the red helmet. Can Sachamodolo get in the mix again? At the minute, though, it is going to be Caleb Ewan who's going to be launched. 300 to go, 200 to go. Sagan is there in the yellow jersey. It's still Ewan who's going to go now. Ewan through the centre on the left-hand side. It's the Australian up against Van Poppel, but here goes Van Poppel in the white jersey. Van Poppel on the left-hand side in the white. Ewan hitting the front. I think it's going to be Ewan. Ewan's going to get it. And Caleb Ewan hits the front, gets overtaken, back to the front again, and takes the win after a very long, difficult day on stage 4 of the Tour of Poland. A handshake between Sagan and Ewan. Sagan never really in this one. Caleb Ewan bossed it really from start to finish.
Great ride there by Caleb Ewan. Good teamwork as well to put him in the right place at the right time. He was anonymous right up until the last kilometre. It wasn't really a Sagan sprint. It was flat out. It was fast. It was 70-odd kilometres an hour. Sagan needs a little bit of up and down to really suit him. But great ride there by Caleb Ewan of Orica Scott.
Hugs all round for Orica Scott, who waited to the very last 500 metres. Luca Mezgec did a wonderful job for his Australian sprinter. And once Luca Mezgec launched him, Ewan was there to beat the competition. There is the hug between the two stars who won the day. They did a lot of chasing, but it's good to see Caleb Ewan get another victory on the board. Missed out on day 1. Goes to thank Jack Haig there as well. Remember, just 6 riders left in this team now after Sam Bewley failed to start yesterday's stage.
Jack Haig did a good job of looking after him all day, and you can see here the lead out was left to the last minute. Van Poppel got a good lead out, but his rider was on the front from 800 metres out, so really had to do a lot of work there. And you can see, just gone back a second, Caleb Ewan, you can't even see him, he's so small, he's right behind his lead out man there. Sagan getting a good lead out, but just delayed a little bit there, and then Ewan just about to launch now. Mezgec gets out of the way. Sagan at this point was getting on terms, but we said it wasn't an out-and-out sprint. Sagan needed it to be a little bit up and down, and it wasn't. And you can see Van Poppel on the right-hand side got on terms with Caleb Ewan with about 50 metres to go, and then Ewan just found that second wind, or Van Poppel just died a little bit and pulled out another wheels advantage on him.
Model on the right-hand side, Lorenzo Manzan not far away as well for Francis Deschamps, the Frenchman. Boy van Poppel behind, but Caleb Ewan through the centre with that style where he's crouched over the bars, rocking from side to side, over the line first, and it is first win for him since the Giro d'Italia.
And he needed that, didn't he? Because we've said before, you know, when he doesn't get the results, his head falls off a little bit, and you can see here Mezgec leading him out. Sagan just hits the wind a little bit too early there, and Ewan was just in that pocket for a little bit longer. Sagan comes up on the outside, and there was a bit of a shoulder there, and I think that might have been what we saw afterwards. When Sagan went up to him afterwards, I think that might have been Sagan just saying, sorry, didn't mean that, wasn't meant. And here you can see Van Poppel. Van Poppel, for me, does a good ride because he gets back on terms. He comes out of the pocket behind Ewan, goes over to the right, and you can see in about 20 metres time, almost gets on terms. Or does he with Ewan? I think that was maybe a size thing that we saw. You know, he didn't get anywhere near him in the end, did he? And I think just by virtue of the fact that he's that much bigger than him, optical illusion from the front looked like he did get on terms.
It's Ewan, Danny van Poppel and Peter Sagan. So Sagan, crucially, takes bonus seconds.
And I was just about to say, that's why you can see the throw from Sagan and Van Poppel. They knew they weren't going to beat Ewan, but they were throwing for the bonus seconds.
Certainly for Peter Sagan, who still leads the Tour de Pologne. So the stage victory goes to Caleb Ewan. Yellow jersey stays on the back of Peter Sagan. 4 stages in. Big sprint day done. It's now up to the GC guys for the next 3 days. Caleb Ewan with a 23rd victory in his career. 23 years of age from Australia. He's had a very good season so far. First Giro d'Italia stage win, and he's won here again at the Tour de Pologne on the World Tour, beating Danny van Poppel and Peter Sagan. Boy van Poppel in 4th, Sacha Model 5th, Manzan van Arsbroek and Batalyin up there as well. Decent result from Alexander Porsev. Valschaide, you would have been expecting better than that in 14th. Same can be said for Bonifacio and Minali. Jose Joaquim Rojas had a go, as you'd expect him to do. And as we look down on the Górnik Zabrze Stadium, the man who has finished on top of the rankings today, Caleb Ewan of Australia and Orica Scott. Orica Scott, what a year they're having. Yet another victory. Victory number 23 for the team this year. Same number as Ewan now has in his career.
Good ride there by Enrico Battaglin for 6, was it, up there? For a rider that at the start of the year didn't even have a contract. So I know he's looking for next year, but doing himself no end of good getting that result.
A hard day, good results for many. The best result for Caleb Ewan, who takes stage 4 of the Tour of Poland here in Zabrze. Well, that's how he did it. A little bit of a rub on the